Imagine a person who is lost in a dark forest with no map or light. In his own strength, he cannot see a way out, nor can he recognize the voice calling him to safety. This picture helps illustrate a key idea in Reformed theology expressed by the lines. Dead men do not cooperate with grace. Unless regeneration takes place first, there is no possibility of faith. In Reformed thought, every human being, because of the fall into sin, is spiritually dead, much like our lost traveler in the dark forest. This death isn't physical but spiritual. It means that in our natural state we are utterly incapable of seeking God or choosing Him on our own. Just as a lifeless body can't move or respond to help, a spiritually dead person is not in any position to respond to God's call. Now consider grace as the light and the guiding voice that calls out, offering a path to safety and life. In our everyday understanding, if someone were unconscious or beyond the point of responsiveness, even the brightest light or the kindest invitation wouldn't stir a reaction. In the same way, Reformed theology teaches that without God's intervention, a person remains too spiritually incapacitated to grasp or cooperate with His grace. It isn't a matter of stubbornness or resistance on our part, it's that our hearts, tainted by sin, are simply unable to respond. This is where the idea of regeneration enters the picture. Regeneration is like a divine revival, a miraculous act where God breathes spiritual life into the dead. It is often described as being born again. According to Reformed theology, this regeneration must happen first. God must first awaken a person's heart so that they can then receive and cooperate with His grace. Once that new spiritual life is imparted, the person becomes capable of faith, like a person who has just awakened, able now to see the light and hear the guiding voice. Think of it like trying to tune into a radio station. If your radio is completely off, no matter how clear or appealing the broadcast might be, you won't hear it. Only after you switch it on can you tune in. In our case, God turning on the radio is analogous to the act of regeneration. Without that divine activation, even the most compelling message of grace will not register. Reformed theology emphasizes that this regenerative work is entirely God's act, a sovereign decision of His grace, not something that we can accomplish by our own effort. It stresses the doctrine of total depravity. Every part of our nature is affected by sin, leaving us unable to reach out to God on our own. Therefore, any movement toward faith isn't initiated by human will. Rather, it is started by God's loving and powerful act of regeneration. In summary, the statement, "Dead men do not cooperate with grace," underscores that without first being given new spiritual life by God, human beings, being dead in sin, are incapable of responding to His grace. And unless regeneration takes place first, there is no possibility of faith. Reinforces the idea that faith itself is a result of God's prior work in renewing our hearts. Only after experiencing this divine regeneration can we truly embrace and cooperate with the grace that God offers. This understanding invites us to marvel at the depth of God's mercy and sovereignty. He reaches out to those who are hopelessly lost, reviving them so that they may finally respond in faith.